The Ukrainians enjoy their music, war or no war. Joseph Lindsley is in Lviv. What are we listening to here, Joe?
Hey, Bob. Good afternoon. These are voices of Ukrainians and volunteers from all over the world singing on the cobbled pedestrian streets of the center city of Lviv from yesterday during the Fête de la Musique, or Sviata Musika, the Holyday of music. And every few blocks, there was a staging area with different acts every hour through the afternoon and the evening. And this song is called Oi Uhayu Predunayu. And it means Oi in the forest near the Danube River. The Danube, of course, is that famous river that goes through Vienna and Budapest. And then it goes through southern Ukraine where it meets the Black Sea. And this is a very beloved Ukrainian folk song. And it's singing, the words are about the nightingale chirping, calling to the other birds. And there's music playing, the bass hums, the violin cries, my beloved is walking in the forest near the banks of the Danube River. And it was an American musician, Benya Stewart, who was singing this yesterday. He's from Ohio. And so the Ukrainians were very happy to have an American knowing, one of their ancient songs. And it was a wonderful sight to see how all these people, at least 100 people, and within a few hours there was many more, were singing the words to this song in those cobbled streets, sitting at cafe tables or standing, for everyone from children to adults, and singing these words in solidarity. And, as I watched that crowd, I realized yesterday, 2 days ago, everyone here had lived through that hell, the Russian drones that came over Lviv, and the sounds of the sky battle could be heard by everyone. And so it really was a good moment for people to take a rest. And also in that crowd there were 3 women from the Crimean Peninsula who are in exile from their homeland. And then there was a friend of mine, a soldier, was having a beer, and he was getting ready. He told me that today he was injured by the Russians many months ago in a fight in the trenches. And he said it might be his last beer for a long time, because today he finds out if he has to return to the fight, if he's healthy enough to go back to it. And so as you look at, you hear the people singing, everyone has, very profound stories, a lot of hope and a lot of fear. There also were gathered a huge, maybe about 20 people, volunteers from all over the world who work at the frontline kitchen. And they'd spend all afternoon chopping vegetables and moving crates in the 80-degree sunshine of the afternoon. Actually, they had a visit from celebrity chef Rachel Ray in the afternoon. You never know who's going to show up here in Lviv. And it was really wonderful to see those volunteers who've, really tirelessly have made food for the soldiers in the trenches from all over the world, all different ages. And they were sitting there listening to this music. And there was an older American who came up to me and said, this is one of the most wonderful things I've ever seen. He said, how could I ever leave this country? And, to hear that is quite remarkable. Again, remembering that, for the first time, many of those volunteers just 2 days ago, they heard the sounds of a battle over the skies of Lviv for the very first time. And they're still here, and they're still able to go to the streets and to sing songs. And so that is, it is such an enduring spirit. And the music went on until curfew, right up until the very edge, and people sort of spontaneously singing in different circles and crowds around the city. And so it almost felt like an exorcism of those horrible sounds that we heard a few days ago. The sounds of those menacing drones and the explosions. Last night we got to hear the sounds of people singing with great hope and even great joy.
Remarkable. God bless them. Meanwhile, overnight, a bridge connecting Ukraine's southern Kherson region to the Crimean Peninsula was the target of Ukrainian shelling. And I know there are I think, 3 vehicle crossing points connecting Kherson and Crimea, which, of course, was annexed by Russia in 2014. And, Joe, what do you know about this? Crimea has served as a key logistics hub for Russian forces. So how important is what happened overnight there?
Well, first, when we think about these bridges, it was over those bridges that the Russians were able to so quickly invade, starting on February 24th, 2022. And there was a lot of concern, why were those bridges why were they not better protected? And part of this was, in the 8 years since Russia annexed Crimea, there were the Minsk treaties, and Germany and NATO nations and the U.S., everyone was trying to, rather than push Russia back, tried to get Ukraine to negotiate. And so Ukraine had sort of agreed, not to have a huge military presence on its borders. So that's one reason. But the second thing, there might have been saboteurs and collaborators, or certainly there were collaborators on the Ukrainian side who sort of welcomed the Russians in. But now, over a year later, we're in a very different position. And if Ukrainians can cut off the Russian supply from Crimea, it would be extremely helpful for the counteroffensive. Those are the bridges they want to get rid of. The one bridge they want to keep now is the famous Kerch Bridge. That something happened to it last October, but the reason why they want to keep that bridge is because that's the fastest way for the Russians to get out of Crimea. So I think a lot of people theorize that bridge they want to keep on. The Ukrainians want to keep untouched. The other thing in Crimea, in the main city of Sevastopol, is Russia's main naval base, which Ukraine, even before Russia invaded Crimea, Ukraine allowed them to, very naively, to have a presence in the Crimean Peninsula. And from that base, Russia has been able to do a lot of damage. And as I was reminded when speaking with the women from Crimea yesterday, until Crimea is out of Russian hands, Ukraine will always be under threat. This is something that Boris Johnson in London reminded people yesterday. So Crimea really is the key to victory and to peace.
You really have to look at a map to understand all of this. I've been studying a little bit of geography lately, and you see where Crimea is in relation to the rest of Ukraine and Russia, and you can understand how important it is, can't you?
Yeah, and if Crimea has long been of strategic importance. The ancient Greeks had trading colonies there. It was the outer edge of the Greek Empire. And over the centuries, many different nomadic tribes and empires have fought for that territory. And perhaps most famously in the 1850s, there was the Crimean War, the war that made people like Florence Nightingale famous, and the charge of the Light Brigade. And that was kind of the first world war in many ways. And they were fighting over, because it was such a strategic place, it juts out south of Ukraine into the Black Sea. It's a subtropical climate, very different from the rest of Ukraine, palm trees, and it's very beautiful, jagged rocks, and it's been home to these the Muslim Tartar people. That's kind of where they went. They thought they could hide out from the troubles of the world, but it's been contested and fought over for so many centuries. Many people think that the great big battles that will end Russia's current war on Ukraine must necessarily, as I said, center on this Crimean Peninsula.
Yes, we need to follow that closely. Well, Joseph, I hope you continue to get some R&R and enjoy some music in spite of everything that's going on around you. I don't know how you do it, but I'm glad you can. And
it's each of those moments gives people new energy to face whatever might show up the next day. I mean, that's the first thing you do when you wake up. You check to see, are there missiles coming? Are there drones coming? And if not, you get up and try to have a normal day. Yeah. And thanks to listeners, by the way, we've been able to purchase another drone. Thanks to Tom in Georgia and many other listeners to WGN. There's a married couple who signed up to fight, and they're going to have a great drone to help them in their efforts in the trenches in the southeast.
Great news. Happy to hear that.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Що він сказав?
Well, which side are you on?
На чиїй ти стороні,
Come on now. Oh, which side are you on?
на чиїй ти стороні.